Casey Gwill, and I'm the director here at the Athenaeum. And I want to welcome everybody here tonight, and thank you so much for coming. Just a few housekeeping things before we get started. Please make sure your cell phones are turned off. We don't want anybody to be disturbed during the presentation. And if you need the bathroom, the elevators are right over here. You just go down to the basement, and you'll find the bathrooms. So, without any further, tonight I want to welcome April Ossman. She is the author of Event Boundaries, Anxious Music, and most recently, We. And tonight she will be reading from We. Okay, you have you.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay in the back? Wave if you can. Okay, great. So thank you, Casey and Adele and Bob, for having me. And thank you guys all for coming. I'm thrilled. So I'm going to read some poems from the book, and then I'm going to tell a couple of sample stories, and I'm going to invite you guys to share stories. So the point of this book and the point of the call and response readings I'm doing is trying to reach across the aisle and maybe help to get past incivility and villainization and, see past egos to souls, maybe find some common ground and maybe not have a civil war. So the first poem I'm going to read is along that theme of seeing past egos. It's called Nonpartisan. If I told you I saw your soul, would you judge me inappropriate or disbelieve me? If you asked for a description, would I admit you glowed golden as these late northern afternoons whose slanted autumn light makes green fire of a backlit tree's shimmering leaves and balances me perfectly on the tightrope between yearning and content, as if I finally understood what beauty meant to tell me? So I want to talk a little bit about, I started writing this book in 2015, and it's the first poem sort of started with being really upset about the killing of unarmed black men. It was like it seemed like every week there was another one, and it was just horrifying and upsetting. And then the campaign was happening, and I got to thinking about, all kinds of prejudice. And sort of like, what is my role in that, and am I contributing to this, and is one prejudice any better or any worse than another? I don't think so. It's the same thing. And I was getting really upset by the increasing incivility. So that was kind of where the book started, and then we had a family estrangement over politics in 2015, and it lasted 9 years until last year. We finally had a meeting of the family members concerned and decided to make peace for the sake of some aging parents who needed us all to be taking care of them. That has been really healing and wonderful. We don't agree politically, but we could agree completely about the healthcare. So anyway, that's kind of where a lot of the impetus comes for this book. For this next poem, you might want to fasten your seatbelts. It's a 5-minute ride. This is the title poem. And it's in conversation with Walt Whitman's Song of Myself. And there's also a mention in it of Jonathan Livingston Seagull being outcast from the flock. So, we. I celebrate my being, every atom of myself and you, lamp and mirror of all that is. I will assume is we, even if it makes an ass of you or me. I will love my ass and others I kiss, as I love every donkey, grass blade, rhinoceros, bumblebee, and monkey. I will look through the eyes of the dead and the living. I will give up some virginities and keep others. And however well or poorly I sing, I will do it with gladness, honoring the procreant urge of the world with books. I will sniff some roses and gild some lilies, love the sea and mountains equally. Thank every tree for purifying aspirations. I will have my loaf and eat it with loads of butter, with 1,000 crumbs of appreciation for its texture, grains, and flavor, for all the labor of harvesting, transporting, baking, for its making and mine. April Ossman, Infinite Cosmos, Santa Barbara's daughter. Yes, descended from a saint, as every one of the world's multitudes, ascended to the female gender, the equal of every other, grateful to my mother and father, divine as every citizen, refugee, hermit, immigrant, or outcast speeding seagull, overflowing essence, a love to flood every door from its jam, singing, I am, multiple, dazzling, every woman and man, every gender we imagine or invent, every rainbowed event whose ends dip into the prismatic mystery we wait lifelong to see, wherein I will learn to play four-dimensional chess with my intellect and not neglect my body, whose loyal, uncomplaining feet, wide and long as they are strong, ballast and carry me wherever pique or justice, will or love, peace or imagination inspires. I will embrace all that transpires, arms and armpits, legs and cleavages, belly and back, cheeks and brow, whose venerable shelf we imagine is the seat of all our sense. Yet I argue a kind of porous fence through which flourishes a wisdom hidden by the unconscious, providing access to every mystery we imagine behind a veil, though they reside on either side. We are larger and more divine than any have yet perceived, conceived in the wisdom of a greater love we should promulgate, whether in religion or atheism or agnosticism or indecision, in every village or city, continent or planet, amid every ethnicity, gender, sexuality, and ability. Pardon me if I've left any in the dust or ether. If I must, I'll ride to infamy on a horse of every color, embracing both humility and pride. Whoever degrades another degrades me, and whatever is done or said returns at last to me, sewn with my own thread, the weave of which I hope to see beautiful as tapestry, clearly as Penelope, Arachne, and the three fates, generously as allowed by my eyes and soul overflowing, green as eternity lit by undying fire no supernova could hope to outshine. I could go on for an eon, but let us say divine until we believe it, until we live it within and beyond the body, creating the atoms of every moment in the space-time continuum, shivering the timbers of history and herstory, adding our light to the cosmos as if we owned it. Thank you. So next I've got some comic relief for you. Some of you are already acquainted with my cream scones, and for those who aren't, there's a big plate over there of which you should partake. And at the end, if there's any left, there's plastic bags so you can take some home. This is called April's Cream Scones, or Saving April from Megalomania. Megalomania, because if I could bake and deliver enough at once, I'd rule the world with my cream scones. So if you bake them yourselves, you'll save me from megalomania and you from serfdom. Of course, the baking and delivering would mean keel-hauling a passel of minions, as I couldn't do it alone. Keel-hauling's problematic, as I'd have to learn how. Do sailors who know still exist? I bet they'd beg to teach me after eating a scone. Finding minions isn't difficult. I'm sure I trip over them everywhere. Though you have to know how to recognize them. Only someone truly willing to employ minions will. It's a bit like pheromones. So, scratch minions. Would a Fortune 500 company be big enough to get cream scones to everyone? I only want world domination if it includes everyone. Faux world domination would be worse than faux designer bags because the exceptions would know. It wouldn't just be me carrying a faux bag with a faux confident smirk. What would a world ruled by April look like? Mandatory chocolate consumption for starters. High tea would become chocolate high. Think how much sweeter we'd all be. I'm salivating just imagining. And you will too, once you've eaten the scones. Does Pavlov ring a bell? Repeat after me. Yes, April. Yes, anything, April. Eat at your peril. So this next poem I wrote after watching the news, and they were playing a clip of a Trump rally on the news, and I was looking at the people behind him, and I noticed there was one man who was behaving really differently from everybody else. So I wrote the poem to try to understand maybe why. It's called Knee Deep. Among the raucous ralliers sat a man more still than rest, a heron wading knee-deep in lake among marauding gulls, as the Narcissus, who would be king, made love to his own polemic, the people reflected like whitewater. The placid man did not react on cue, not cheering with his fellows, not laughing, not waving a sign, perhaps listening intently to the speaker, but more likely to some inner piper inviting wandering, not shouting agreement or invective as they all were exhorted, not praising his invisible clothes as the would-be emperor spoke of all they should fear and loathe. The man's face wore an expression of hope that shone like a lone flashlight in a mansion the lack of power made dark. This next poem, the last line of every stanza is the first line of the next stanza, and the first line is also the last line. It's called Dark Sweet for My Country. Dark is an overcast night, licorice, ink, ravens, outer space. Let me see the beauty in crows mowing silence like 100 rusty tractors or a crowd calling for murder. And the peace in sleeping in my closed eyes night, the safety in waking, in darkness none may penetrate. In darkness none may penetrate lies dark money, without which less corrupt politicians might win, less partisan judges be anointed, less partial justice be apportioned, and privilege be less limited. None have yet proved it can't be infinite as space-time, or imagination, or grace. So give it, like sun gives light to everyone. Like sun gives light to everyone, dark matter gives gravity to galaxies that would otherwise fly apart from centers no longer holding. Say 85% of matter is dark, named for not interacting with light, for being invisible, which is not the same except in dark skin color in America. America, where we can do more than hope for the energy to change. For the energy to change, look to dark, 68% of everything. Its endless potential permeates space, accelerates universal expansion, peels galaxies from each other like dividing cells, begetting new galaxies. As rogue planets and ejected stars roam the empty outer spaces in the dark energy of infinite possibility. In the dark energy of infinite possibility, let freedom ring. In the World Wide Web, in the deep and dark webs, allowing us to be anonymous if we wish, independent but connected, not indexed by search engines or police states. Free to navigate information, communication, to solve trials and tribulation, as dark humor makes light of dark matters. As dark humor makes light of dark matters, lathe me with a soft summer night, warm air alive with a symphony of invisible insects we never knew kept humans from going extinct. Bathe me in the scent of peonies and roses, fungus and bark, of earth and grasses I can only guess at. In the silken dusk I don like lingerie as I lay me down to sleep, dark as an overcast night. So I'm going to read one more poem before I open it up to sharing stories. This one I wrote after waiting for a flight at the Manchester airport, and I fell into a conversation with someone I think neither of us really expected. It's called Dear Attila. Hello, fellow snowbird, with your second home in Florida, in the city next to my in-laws to be. Thank you for the pre-flight commiseration over northern winters, the mutual appreciation of a southern break, for shared love of certain books and movies. Thank you for favoring me with your dimples and good cheer, for your reluctance to hurt with political dueling what you assume must be my liberal feelings as a Vermonter. Thank you for dipping your toes in anyway, for laving them in perfectly civil debate scaling walls, for the concession that both sides have been known to lie, for your self-deprecating humor in referring to yourself as being to the right of Attila the Hun, but disarming and attempting to conquer with charm instead of your namesake's force, for being so courteous as to renew my faith in the humanity of those with whom I disagree politically. So the coda to this is, he was on the next flight I got on too. He was already seated, like about halfway down the plane, and I was coming down the aisle and I said, "Hey, Attila!" And like, he waved. So I'm going to share a couple of stories and then invite you guys to share stories about being a bridge, either reaching across the political divide and finding some common ground, having a moment of shared humanity, or having someone reach across to you. And one of the things that inspired me to do this call and response thing is the story of Daryl Davis. I don't know if any of you know of him, but he's a black R&B and blues musician. Pretty well known, played with a lot of famous people. Anyway, he was playing a gig one night in a bar, and afterward a white patron came up to him and complimented him on his playing. And they fell into conversation, and Daryl finds out that this guy is a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Anyway, he befriends him, and eventually the Klan member can't countenance being in the Klan anymore because he's friends with Daryl Davis, and he gave up his membership and gave Daryl his robes. And this started Daryl Davis on a journey. He became a political activist. He ended up collecting 200 KKK robes. So I thought, if you can do that, I can probably reach across the political aisle. Not so hard or so scary. And I'm going to start by sharing one short story of my own. So, and feel free to share similar stories. I was at the Home Goods in West Lebanon, maybe a couple of years ago. I'm standing silently in the line waiting to pay, and all of a sudden the guy next to me tries to pick a political fight. So I happened to notice what he's holding, and I said, "Are you by any chance buying a gift for your granddaughter?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh, how old's your granddaughter?" And he told me, and I said, "Oh, my granddaughter's 7. We had this great conversation about how much we loved our granddaughters. We never had the political fight." So I'm thinking, we probably are sharing space with people we disagree vehemently with politically a lot more than we realize. Like, you're at the auto mechanic, you're at the bank, the grocery store, your kids or your grandkids' soccer game, you're at a sports bar watching a football game. So anyway, would anyone like to volunteer a story? Reaching across. Nope.
I will. You know, when I knew that you were gonna, oh. Wow, I've got power now. You're gonna have to pry this from my cold, dead hands. No, I knew that you would do this, that you were gonna do this. I'm like, what story do I have to tell? And then just on the way up here, I realized, Montpelier went through this terrible flood a couple of years back, and my daughter owned a store downtown. And all of a sudden, everyone was helping, and nobody asked, like, whose side are you on? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? It was all like, do you have a mop? Do you have a hose? Do you have, a shop vac I can borrow? Or, here's what we all need to do right now. And I knew, I guess I made assumptions about people by looking at them, what their politics might be, and maybe they did of me too, but it just seemed so immaterial. And, now that I think about it, the fact that we could, in fact, cooperate in such a formidable task, And so now I'm thinking like, oh, is that what we need, to get us all together, is just something that unites us beyond our ability to fight about it. So, yeah.
We need more floods.
Please, no.
No, that's a great story. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And back again. It's a good eye. I know it is. So I was just thinking, so I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I'm making a film right now, actually about what are people doing in their small communities around the state that are making a difference and bringing community together and creating connection. Partly just because I just feel right now that I can't take on some huge traumatic issue, and I want to really look at like what is working in communities. So last week we went to Rutland and we spent 3 hours shooting a scene for the film, which was a drag show at the Elks Club, which most people would think that's a complete oxymoron. Like, how would you ever put these two very different cultures together?
Yeah.
And that's what interested me when I heard about it. I was like, oh my God, got to go down there and shoot this, what's going on there. And so, it was amazing because we sort of did, talk to the Elks, and then we hung out with the drag queens who were getting dressed, and we shot the whole scene of them at the show, and all the shots of people listening. And most of the people there were white, working class people who many of us would assume are from a particular class. But they were completely enjoying themselves, and a couple of them were parents of these guys who were doing drag, and they so wanted to talk in front of the camera, like, oh my God, I love the fact that my son is doing this, and he's such an incredible person, and I've met all his friends, and they're so great, and da-da-da. I was like, thank you, Jesus, like, this is awesome. So anyway, for me, it was really great to just see these two opposite things coming together and having a blast with each other, and just ripping away all those stereotypes that we assume.
That's great.
So anyway, that's my
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Got a story? Louise.
Very short, a haiku. A sea of lilies, one open parrot tulip, outsider welcomed.
Thank you. Anyone else got a story to share? I'll share another one. So after this healing of the estrangement and the family, I was invited to a bridal shower. And I'm pretty sure that all 20 women, all the other 19 women at this bridal shower were of a different political bent than I was. But I knew a number of them from years being in part of the family, and they were all curious to know what I was doing. So I was telling them about the book, and they were all excited. They all thought this was the greatest thing, that it's really necessary, and they were thrilled that I'm doing this. And some of them pre-ordered the book. So, yeah, and the reading that I did in Norwich, I invited people to that were Harris voters, Stein voters, and Trump voters. So we had a mixed audience in Norwich. We had great discussion, and all of those different voters bought books, and some of them went and had discussion groups afterward. So I'm really encouraged by this, and encouraged by, like what's happening in the family too. Really happy to have the healing underway there. I mean, things aren't rosy yet, but they're way better, and we're agreeing on the really important stuff, which is taking care of people we love. Yeah, I'll share one more. So we had our furnace worked on a few months ago, and the guy who came to fix the furnace, I'm pretty sure we were on opposite sides politically. Don't know for sure, but I would guess. Anyway, he does something with the furnace, and then we're standing there waiting. I assume we're waiting for the furnace to do something. Anyway, and he starts telling me how, we don't have to take all these drugs. You can cure some things by improving your diet. I was like, yeah. He says, you can cure diabetes by changing your diet. I'm like, yeah. I said, and GERD too. You can change your diet and not have GERD. And so, we were off and running. We had this whole conversation how we don't want pesticides on our produce, and we don't want antibiotics in our meat. Anyway, it's 45 minutes, and I'm thinking, is the furnace done? Whatever it's supposed to do yet? And he finally kind of winds up. He says, he said, that's why I like this job. He says, having a good conversation with someone that has common sense. So he was just chatting like the furnace was all done. But I was like, wow, if you knew how I voted, I wonder if you'd think I had common sense. But it was great. I mean, he probably could tell, right? Because the guy standing in line apparently could tell. We didn't agree politically, which is kind of really weird to me because I was wearing jeans and a turtleneck. I didn't think that was political, but apparently it is.
What was he going to pick a fight about? How did you know he was about to pick a fight with you?
Oh, it was obvious. I can't remember what he said now, but it was some kind of really aggressive comment about, I don't know, Trump or politics or something along those lines. And it was clearly he was hoping to pick a fight, I'm like, no, we're not going there. We're going to appreciate each other. Anyone else have a story you want to share? Anybody been to a sports bar? Talk to somebody? Yeah.
So, oh wow, this does feel really official. As April and Jim know, we have a 13-year-old who's had long COVID for 3 years. And there seem to be two camps. Of course, I'm generalizing, but the far right, there's the rhetoric around it is, well, it was the China virus. What do you expect? And the far left, well, it was because of the vaccines. What do you expect? And my in-laws, I grew up in a very democratic political family, and my in-laws they say that they're right of the Tea Party. Whatever, that's pretty far right. And it's been really strange, and they've had absolutely none of the rhetoric, and they said, sickness is sickness. It doesn't matter what you believe. And that was pretty huge for them. We were a little terrified if they would even acknowledge that. So that's been really interesting.
Yeah.
To see them sort of just not look right or left.
Great story. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, wow. It is.
Anybody else got a story?
Well, I cannot let this night pass without giving a shout out to the library, the Athenaeum, only because we see a multitude of different people come into this library. And, it's so easy to kind of, I hate to say it, stereotype, people. We try not to do that here. It's an equal playing field. But you can tell sometimes people have different opinions about their political views. But what kind of it all boils down to here at the library is like they have come in for the love of books. And you start talking to someone about a particular author or a type of book, it's kind of like it evens out the playing ground. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it kind of gives you a common point of conversation. So, I have to say that about the library. So, and I know you all feel the same way. But yeah, we see it all the time. Different people coming in. It's a pot of just all sorts of wonderful personalities. It kind of adds to the richness. It's unfortunate that sometimes people aren't as respectful of each other as they should, but get them talking about their favorite book. Hey, it's very, it leaves you feeling good.
Yeah.
You hit on something important, that America is a melting pot. Is it not?
Oh, yeah.
Looking for the microphone. I thought it was a great story. Well, yeah, that America is a melting pot, and we forget that sometimes. And I've been to a few of these readings, and I've heard some people that were pretty angry, and I've been in the situation myself, regardless of which side you were on. And I remember one comment from one of the readings saying that I've learned how to avoid talking about politics because it's so volatile, or potentially volatile. Because we're in a situation now where there's not the listening that is happening. That should happen. It should be a debate. And the thing that I'm always reminded of as I have these conversations is that as strongly as I feel about my particular political position, I know they feel that way too. And they're no less American than I am. And then when I remember that humanity, I can reach across and find common ground. And find something else to talk about if we have to. And then we can talk about politics as long as people are calm and relaxed and remember that we're all humans and we've got a lot going on top of politics. So I appreciated your story. I just wanted to follow up on that.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share? Yeah.
So it's always difficult when you're working for an organization that is like not to be talked about in some way. So I don't really feel free to talk, and that's part of it. But I will say that one of the things that's been happening when you work at the VA is that there's constant feedback from veterans about what they're hearing and what's going on. And, it has actually, I've had a few veterans who've just never really listened or weren't involved, and they're so involved now, they're listening to everything. And they've come to groups now and they want to talk. They want to talk and they want to connect. They didn't want to leave after 2 hours. I'm like, okay, you can stay. It's great. You can. I don't own this place. It's your place. You make it what you want. And so I have felt that at the same time that working is hard when people, are being, like the message is always that we have to get rid of the waste. That's and I got a letter today. We have to get rid of the waste. But you are, we still value you and we think you're important, but we have to get rid of this waste. So, well, whatever it is. So I think that the hard part is that It's very strange if you were working for some place and you thought you knew all the people you worked for, and the next day you woke up and you know who you worked for. And that's really, I think, how I humor myself is like, I don't know who I work for. I send these 5 bullets every week. I don't know, but they go, and it's just part of working there. But it's a very funny experience in some ways to have your whole administration change in one day.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. I'm going to read, I think, 3 more poems. So this next one, I'm kind of having some fun with the Hippocratic Oath that doctors take. It's called Hippocratic Oath. If I believe in the sanctity of lives, but make exceptions, what does that make me? Does my gut not putrefy what I eat? Do I not sneeze, lie, and bleed? If I only lie socially, does that make me superior to other liars? Does the sun or moon choose to shine only on me and mine? At the end of the revolution, marking another day with or without soulful change, we say the sun sets in rosy glory or hazy smog, but in fact, we turn our backs on it. Romantic, familial, conservative, liberal, moderate, progressive, independent, disaffected. Is it feasible to do no harm, or should we qualify whenever possible? If I unknowingly crush or chop a bug while mowing, or unconsciously judge a soul based on color, politics, gender, etc., do I not harm equally as intent? Do I not reek of hypocrisy, miasmic as dung, as much as any fellows I've deemed insincere or misled? Since we can't bring back any dead or win forgiveness from any id, shall we let our compass be compassion in this dim-lit grove of groping branches and exposed roots in this wilderness of self-righteousness? So I was rereading the preamble to the Constitution, and I thought, this thing needs editing. So I rewrote it. I kept all the original parts, but I added quite a bit. I think you'll be able to tell what I added. 21st century preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union than chocolate and coffee or hot dogs and baseball, of liberty and justice for all, for donkeys, elephants, and cats who walk by themselves, but depend equally on common love and compassion. We establish equality to ensure domestic tranquility, even for the braying, trumpeting, yowling, fat cats, politicians, pundits, masses, and middle class, with whom still others may disagree. We do provide for the common defense, which is not synonymous with offense or preemption, to promote the common welfare of every human being and secure the blessings of health, education, and wealth without prejudice to all, to ensure posterity measured by the golden rule, polished to its highest gloss. We do ordain and establish in common sense, honoring our common divinity in the United States of America and globally, a model and beacon of hope, beckoning to the oppressed everywhere. We enshrine this Constitution, this covenant of cooperation, in civility, independence, and interdependence, the preservation of which will make America great again. So before I read this last one, I'm just going to say, there's scones over here I hope you're going to eat or take home. There's also books if you want to buy books. This last one I wrote after Trump's first State of the Union speech. I happened to be driving along a road in the dark just before dawn, and you could see into the houses where people were up, and it was just kind of magical. Anyway, it's called State of the Union Obad. Moving through dawn's ethereal twilight gray as darkness leaches from valley landscape, passing gold-lit rooms like staged plays, wombs from which a day's labor is born, brief havens for waking. One man with his back to me, though he doesn't know it, bent like a lover to his task, with faith in walls that may not be all he needs to survive catastrophe. One man with his hand cupped so tenderly around a mug, I want to hug him. Maybe contemplating ways to face the day with faith and compassion and adversity. Each luminous, breakable neighbor, sipping hot coffee or eating a donut, wholly in the moments duty soon will co-opt, but none more or less divine than any other. Thank you.